Okay, we're back in order. We've called the roll and all that kind of stuff, so we are in public session now. And we're going to start out with, I think, the approval of minutes from, I don't know, how many minutes do we have to approve? April 13th. Oh, I got about 11 minutes that I want to approve. I'll take a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Second.
Okay. Then we will go to, I need to take the vote. Mr. Gaynor?
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Ms. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Okay, I'll turn it over to the superintendents for awards and recognitions.
Good evening, everyone. This doesn't move. So tonight, I'm excited to introduce several highly qualified administrators who will be joining our leadership team this year. First, we have Karen Liddell Anderson. Karen is our new District Director of Student Services. Most recently, Karen was the Director of Special Education at Akron Public Schools for nearly 10 years. During her 30-year career at Akron Schools, she also served as the Special Education Coordinator, a middle school assistant principal, and an intervention specialist. Karen was an adjunct professor at Summit College and the University of Dayton for 8 years, teaching early childhood education and special education. She holds a Master's of Education degree from North Carolina Central University and a bachelor's degree from Jackson State University, along with several certifications. Our current Director of Student Services, Dr. Jeff Johnson, will be taking the role of principal at Monticello this year, and thus our reason we opened the position and we hired Karen. So welcome, and you come up in just a second. Our next is Lindsay Barr. She's our new Coordinator of Student Services. And Lindsay most recently served for 6 years as principal of Gateway High School, a school for children with social and emotional academic needs serviced through Geauga County ESC and Fieldstone Farm. Prior to that, she spent 5 years there as an intervention specialist and several years as an intervention specialist with the STARS Autism Program. Lindsay holds a Master's of Curriculum and Instruction degree from Cleveland State University and a bachelor's from the University of Finland, along with several certifications. We also have our new athletic director is Joseph D'Amato. Joseph spent the last 2 years as Associate Athletic Director at Villa Angela St. Joseph High School. He also served as the Athletic Director at Jay-Z School here in University Heights. Joseph has coached high school basketball and football for 6 years and has held leadership roles in sports marketing. He holds a bachelor's degree in sports management from Bowling Green State University. And finally, we have Desi Stewart, who is returning to the district as the Heights High School faculty manager. Desi has been with us as a health and physical education teacher at Monticello and Wiley Middle Schools, and a faculty manager, the head girls track coach, at Heights High. Most recently, he worked as director of athletics for Richmond Heights High School, and we were ecstatic to have the opportunity to bring Desi back to the school district as a teacher. Desi holds a Master's of Education degree and a bachelor's degree in physical education. So with Karen, Lindsay, Joseph, and Desi, welcome to CHUH, and we can't wait to see your positive impact on your leadership will have on our staff and students. So if you stand again, I'll give them a round of applause. Thank you. Okay, and I don't know if any of you have anything that you want to say to the audience. If you want to come up, you feel free to come to the podium. Yes. Okay, Karen.
I would just like to say thank you to the board
and Dr. Dixon for this opportunity, and I look forward to working with the community as well as leading the Department of Student Services in our efforts to impact student growth and achievement in the district.
I would also like to thank the board and Dr. Dixon. I am super excited to get started with your district and meet all of the fabulous students in your community.
Thank you to the board as well. Obviously, very excited to be here. I think I'm most excited for our students and the community as we begin a transition to the new high school. As a resident here, it's an honor to be able to live here and give back to our students. We're gonna work tirelessly in the athletic department to make it one of the best in the state for you guys. So, again, excited to be here and really looking forward to it. So, thank you.
And I wanted to say before Desi comes up, Desi was traveling back from out of town, and he wanted to be here tonight, so he made sure, so that's why he's not dressed up. But I told him, don't worry about that. His presence means a lot to us to be here. So come on up, Desi.
I just want to thank the board and Dr. Dixon. I'm just excited to be back in Cleveland Heights. Heights is home, so I'm happy to go to work here. Thank you.
On behalf of the board, I want to welcome Joseph, Lindsay, Karen, and Desi.
Ready.
So we look forward to getting to know you and look forward to great things from you.
Okay. All right. So now we can
So welcome. Okay, so we move to the superintendent's report.
Yes. Okay, so we have a couple things. So I'd like to approve, ask the board to approve, we have a motion to approve the resolution of the joint motion. I'm sorry, we have a couple motions I would like for you to approve.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
we can take these
can
motions
talk-
together, I believe.
Yes.
They're both concerning dismissal of one, case number 5117 CV 000883-DAP. And then the other one is case numbers 17 CV 000553-CAAB. So we can accept those as one motion.
So moved.
Second. Okay. Any discussion? Mr. Gainer, would you call the roll?
Mr. Register.
Yes.
Mr. Silverman.
Yes.
Ms. Wright.
Yes.
Mr. Zucker.
Yes.
Mr. Posh. Yes.
Okay,
And then we have two field trips that we want to approve. One was for the high school soccer team to partake in the Columbus Cruise Showcase, and the second one is for our Options Global Ambassadors to travel next year to Ecuador.
So moved.
okay. Any discussion? Questions? Well, Ecuador should be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it looked like there were some women going this year?
Yes, all girls. Yeah, yes.
Okay. Anything else? Mr. Gainer, would you call the roll?
Mr. Silverman.
Yes.
Ms. Wright.
Yes.
Mr. Zucker.
Yes.
Mr. Posh.
Yes.
Mr. Register.
Yes.
Okay, the next thing I have is under Strategic Plan Goal 5, Operational Resources, Finances, Technology, and Facilities. That goal states, again, the district has the necessary finances and infrastructure to provide an outstanding 21st century education and keeps the community well-informed about how resources are being used for school and student performances. We know that throughout the strategic plan process, there was a lot of community input about transparency, and we've worked hard to provide that for the community through our new PAFR reports and some committees that we've established. But we're excited also that starting in August, the school board will begin using board docs for all board meetings moving forward. So board docs was designed specifically for local government, school boards, and other private and public governing bodies to alleviate the enormous task of assembling, printing, distributing, and revising agendas and policies. This state-of-the-art meeting management services increases transparency in government and saves the taxpayers money and has a positive effect on the environment. So next month at our work session, our board members will get their Chromebooks, and we have a training session for all of you. And we're really looking excited. So you will see that your agenda looks so different tonight, because we want to give you a little taste of what board docs will look like. And for the community, you will have the opportunity to access all of the information that the board has prior to the meeting. So you go on the website on a Monday, I think we're going to, before the board meeting, and have access to everything that the board members have for the Tuesday night. So that we wanted transparency, you asked for transparency, this platform allows that. Other school districts and government agencies use it, and we're excited that our board will utilize it as well. Even the voting mechanism, you will actually see it on the screen, how our board members will vote. They will use their computers, and we get rid of some of that paper. So we know we're all excited about this transition and what it would do to, again, increase transparency in the organization and alleviate all of the paper and the changes and all of those things. So we're excited about that. And so the community knows that we're listening and we're acting on our strategic plan, and this is something we explicitly stated under Goal 5. And the last thing I have under my report is last week I sent a letter to the community regarding my decision to pull the recommendation to the board to further investigate a grade span change to 5, 6, 7, 8. As I stated in that letter, I still believe that configuration will be beneficial for our district. My decision in no way undermines our equity work. Our district core values state that we are deeply committed to educational equity and providing an excellent education for all of our students in every one of our schools. And if we remember in our strategic plan, we define educational equity as that addresses the policies, practices, programs, personnel, and resources required to ensure access to educational opportunity and achievement for all students. This is why I'm excited that Monticello is the newly IBMYP authorized school. I wanted to make sure that all our district middle school students had access to the same educational opportunities. We define excellent education means that students have the academic knowledge, social-emotional skills, and extracurricular experiences to succeed as lifelong learners. I believe that our configuration, 6-8, will ensure that we have excellent education in all of our schools, and we will address the social and emotional skills and extracurricular activities, experiences for our students. So although it was a tough decision, but given the facts that we have presented before us, at this, I believe that it was best that we continue with what was stated in the Master Facilities Plan in 2013, that we would move forward with 2, 6, 8 buildings. I stated also in my letter that this model could possibly be explored down the road as we consider phase 2 in the plan, but in the short term, this type of change is just not feasible. Again, I thank the board for allowing me to investigate and our team to explore this option. Again, we were slated to come tonight to possibly vote. A vote was only needed if we were going to change course, but we're not going to change our course at this time. We're going to move forward with the current plan, but we will ensure to the community and our students that we will provide an excellent opportunity, educational opportunities for our students in the current grade span that we have now. So I wanted to state that. And that is all for my superintendent's report.
Thank you. think there would at least be some additional conversations concerning the middle school issue, because it looks like I've got 8 people, and 7 of whom want to talk about middle school facilities. So we're going to go ahead and do statements from the audience. And I would just ask you to bear with me a little bit, because these agendas are somewhat new for me, and I'm sort of adjusting to where to find stuff on this page. But at least I'm familiar with this. This is like the statements where people sign up. I can read these names. And first of all, we have, I think we go 5 minutes. And the first person we have is Malia Lewis on facilities project. And state your name for us and for the records. And
Good evening.
address.
My name is Malia Lewis. President Register, Dr. Dixon, members of the board. I had intended to read the speech I gave last year at the July 16th meeting, and which I emailed you last week. But all of the conversations I've had and all of the emails and posts I have read recently have convinced me that there is no use in rehashing those comments. There is neither enough time nor enough money left in Phase 1 for the midterm course correction which we so sorely needed. The horse has left the barn. We, the communities of University Heights and Cleveland Heights, are stuck with what we have left: an unsatisfactory plan to push ahead with moderate renovations to 2 middle school buildings, which does nothing to remedy the fundamental issues of perceived or real inequities between the 2 middle schools and the very real problems of Rock's Middle as a building. Neither will this phase address whether our students would benefit from a change in grade configuration and whether such a change is feasible. We began this process long before we had a strategic plan to guide our vision and our work. I hope that going forward, the 5 points of that strategic plan, outcomes, equity, engagement, culture of excellence, and responsible use of resources, will guide the process as we revisit all our assumptions for Phase 2. Thank you.
Alan Wilkinson. Oh, you know the list, huh?
Alan Wilkinson, 1286 Yellowstone Road, Cleveland Heights, and about middle school facilities choices. My purpose is to assist in making the best choices for the middle school facilities by taking into account current circumstances and looking to further the student educational improvement following the strategic plan. Building decisions have always been thought to be a 50-year decision. So, all of the design work done by the LFC was the mindset that we were making decisions that would last for 50 years. Based on the June 27 Board of Education meeting, I can see several impediments to altering the middle school facilities plan with a 5, 6, 7, 8 grade configuration. Staff capacity to prepare the education and operations arguments for the change, losing $2 million for the 1-year delay of project completion, facilities project team effort to move in a new direction, time to gather community feedback on this change. I try to make a case here that all of those can be overcome and you do not have to delay. Friday, just before or just after Dr. Dixon's email or message on the board or on the website, I gave an email to the Board of Education with a K6, 7, 8 grade configuration, where with the idea that decisions could be made in from 1 week to 1 month. Okay, and part of what I describe here is trying to make that plausible. K6, 7, 8 doesn't need staff to make an education case. It's a long time tested configuration, K6, 7, 8. Some teachers will argue that having 5, 6 in the elementary buildings allows them to teach leadership for that grade levels under the watchful eye of the rest of the teachers in the building that they've grown up under. So there's a kind of responsibility and growth that happens in that situation that doesn't happen even in the 5, 6 lower middle or lower elementary or upper elementary scenario. By moving sixth graders to the elementary buildings, you increase the utilization of elementary buildings. You reduce the pressure to have to get rid of elementary buildings. In fact, you either reduce it or perhaps get rid of it because we're bringing in a pre-K as well as you're bringing in sixth graders. I suggest that the future of the elementaries in the district, well, let me say something first. Neighborhood elementaries, I believe, are much more valued in this community than neighborhood middle schools. But I believe that the future of some middle schools will be at risk by following the current plan. The operational case need only now answer the question is, can the existing elementary buildings handle the enrollment that's expected? I think the answer is yes, but I don't have that answer. Operationally, I'd make the favorable arguments that if, for busing, you now move sixth graders back to neighborhood schools with the 1 mile busing limit, that reduces the busing required for that age group. Seventh, eighth graders will be the same no matter how you do it. Let's see, the other thing, having, you save, having seventh and eighth grade buildings saves duplication of athletics and arts programming. It makes the IB STEM CTE implementation more cost effective with staffing and equipment that's needed for good implementation of those programs. And I want to remind you of educational equity, which is an educational thing. For the project architects, they've done a lot of work already to conceive of what to do in a $25 to $27 million scenario for one of the 3 middle schools. Turning that into a $30 million endeavor for them shouldn't be a big job. So time to gather community input has happened to a great extent for the outspoken already. It has not happened for the silent majority. I have given the board and the administration an outline of how to collect input equitably in 3 to 5 weeks. A little bit depends on choices that you make in that. I can describe that if I had more minutes. But speaking personally, it is not fiscally nor educationally responsible on a plan that is no longer close to fitting the circumstances to proceed without, alternatives. So I've worked tirelessly to be informed and provide advice to the project, this project, facilities project. I can't count the hours, but I've worked tirelessly to do that, both be informed and provide advice in advance of most of the mistakes the project made. And this is another example. The project will be making a mistake if they proceed, stay the course. Again, it's their choice.
Thank you. Next, we have Kenja Sakali. Sakali, is that right? Sakaya. And he wants to talk about the solar eclipse, which is happening August 21st.
Yes.
So everybody get ready.
So my name is Kenji Sakaya. Hello, everyone. So on August 21st, there will be a solar eclipse. So the moon will be passing in front of the sun, and it will be visible throughout the continental United States. And this will not happen again until 2024. And coincidentally, August 21st is the first day of school here in this district. And, well, it's an important opportunity, both just because it's interesting and it's a great educational opportunity. So I think it would be amazing if we could have, for example, a unit in science and math and maybe even social studies dedicated to, the significance of eclipses. We could learn, it could allow people to tie in that curriculum to something that they are really seeing and is quite amazing. And we could, come outside and observe the eclipse when it happens on the first day of school. And the district could get hold of some eclipse projectors, and it would really be a great experience that many people won't really get to have again. So I think it's important that we go ahead with this. Thank you.
Can we get our scientists to be ready for this on the 21st?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great idea for us to celebrate.
Well,
the-
Kenji, well, you have, sitting in front of you, our assistant superintendent, Ms. Gould, who is science major, and then you have Bob Swagger, hold your hand, Bob Swagger was social studies, so you have two great people who can help make that a reality for you. So, yes. Thank
Okay.
you, thank you.
All right. Now we have Joan Spurl. She wants to give us a gift,
Yeah.
or she wants to talk about a gift.
Hello, I'm his mom. He neglected to say that he's an incoming 7th grader at the Heights Middle School.
Yes.
So, our family had the opportunity to spend spring break in New York City this last year, and Kenji has a great interest in history and social studies, and it occurred to us, something I'd never considered doing when I'd gone to New York City in the past, occurred to my husband, whether we could go to the United Nations and on our trip. We had all kinds of other things planned, and that was a spontaneous trip we took. And we had, as it turned out, an opportunity to tour the United Nations, to see the Security Council, the main chambers, and we were the only Americans on the tour. Our tour was led in English by a gentleman from China. It was fantastic. And while we were there in the gift shop, we purchased a gift to give to the Heights Middle School, which is, it's a copy of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And so I hope you will find a place to hang this here in this building.
Oh, wow, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Joan.
If you don't mind, can I add on a little? I sent an email today, and I just, I decided I would read some of this aloud. I've been pondering the issues that you all have been considering related to the middle school renovation plans. And despite the letter Dr. Dixon sent out last week in her commentary tonight, I do fear that staying on course could prove a costly mistake, and costly in various ways. And it's certainly a difficult decision and predicament you find yourselves in. I just want to express my wish that we learn from history, that we learn from past missteps, misjudgments, mistakes, unforeseen circumstances, and often well-intentioned but misguided decisions and processes, many from the previous administration and a slightly different board, that have brought this administration, board, and process to this point. So I will be working with others to compile and share a list of those various players in this process. And when the LFC did its work, there was no strategic plan, and as far as I know, equity didn't factor maybe as much into the equation. Fortunately, equity is now a prime consideration in this district's decision-making process, and that's progress. I do think you should consider different options, keeping Wiley in consideration as a future middle school space. And I am concerned again that a thorough renovation, it seems to me a thorough renovation makes sense. I'm concerned about all the money that will have to come out of a permanent improvement fund in the future if we do modest renovations. Maybe, I actually had written this too, maybe we go to a K-6 model, which is what I grew up with. There's many options. And I think the good of the entire district should guide your thinking, even if you're not making a different decision tonight. I do wish you luck in any case, and either way, we need to learn from this and grow and maximize equity as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Marcy Denton, middle school facilities.
Good evening, everyone. I am Marcy Denton. I have 2 students at the high school, 1 student at Monticello. I'm also the president of the Monticello PTA, which is going to be working has already started working in partnership with the Roxborough PTA as we are joined together. And I also, when I'm not busy with all of that, I am a teacher in Shaker Heights. as I said, I also want to speak about the facilities plan tonight, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the PTA, just my own personal opinion. As I was listening to all the pros and cons of all the configurations, I really never developed an opinion. I just continued to have a lot of questions and see how complicated every single decision is. And I started looking at the decisions as if they were sort of lined up in these vertical columns. And what I kept thinking is we also need to think horizontally across those columns, no matter what configuration we have, and echoing a lot of what other people have said. We need to keep a few things in mind, no matter what configuration we have. We've got to be developmentally appropriate. Our kids are getting hurried too big, too fast, many of them are, both academically and socially. A lot of the academic push that happens prematurely is due to issues that come from the state, and so I know those are very difficult to negotiate. And then the other thing that we really need to keep in mind, as other people have mentioned, is equity. I know in my classroom we have the saying, what is equal isn't always fair, what's fair isn't always equal, and we really need to dig deep, open our eyes, and I'm talking to everybody here, not just the board, and we need to look at equity issues as they manifest themselves among people of different skin color, among people of different socioeconomic status, and among people whose parents may be louder or quieter than others. And so I just want to reiterate that we as an entire community continue to really, no matter what the focus is on the configuration, keep our focus on developmentally appropriate education that is as equitable as possible. So thank you.
So now we have Jody Serini, middle school facilities.
Good evening. My name is Jody Serini. I live at 2260 Fenwick, University Heights. And I'm a parent of a rising 7th grader in the district, so he will be going here next year. And I'm saddened to hear the recommendation tonight on the master facilities plan will be to stay the course. I was a member of the Lay Facilities Committee, as was a couple of the board members and a couple of the people that I know are in the audience tonight. And at that time, I wish we had considered grade configurations and the possibilities, but we didn't. At that time, we made recommendations with too little information and with what we knew would be favorable from a political perspective. We tried to make courageous recommendations, and I personally felt we were stymied by limited facts that were supported by a previous administration's preconceived agenda. That said, we were told the time to consider grade configurations would be when the district got to the middle school phase of the project. When the district got to that phase, we were told it still wasn't the right time. A year ago, the grade configuration issue arose again, and we were told it wasn't the right time. Now we are being told it isn't the right time again. I pose to you that sometimes your most important decision is not what, but when, because waiting too long may eliminate important options. I sincerely hope that by waiting now, we are not eliminating grade configure change as an important option forever. However, if we wait long enough, grade configuration and other painful decisions may be forced upon us whether or not we feel it's the right time. Those of you who know that I'm running for Board of Education this year know that the reasons I'm running is because I'm very concerned with our declining enrollment and finding a way that we can change that trajectory. Using the enrollment chart presented at the June 27th board meeting, by my own calculations, our enrollment is declining at an average rate of roughly about 2.25% per year. If we don't change that trajectory, in about 5 years, the equity issue between our middle schools will no longer matter. We won't have enough students to support 2 middle schools with a 6th through 8th grade configuration. It just won't be possible. We could very well reach that point within 3 or 4 years of our 2 new middle schools reopening, or our 2 renovated middle schools reopening, and that's really concerning to me. I'm asking our board to please keep this possibility in mind as you consider a stay-the-course strategy and as you are making decisions on how to spend the remaining funds we have left to renovate our middle schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Sam Bell, who wants to talk about middle school facilities.
Surprising. I am Sam Bell, residing in Cleveland Heights. I'm also the grandfather of a couple of rising Heights students, one of whom will be in this building this fall. I appreciate that you are facing some very, very difficult decisions. And Dr. Dixon, with all due respect, I disagree with your decision. And here's why. When you enter Death Valley in your automobile, you will come to a gas station. And that gas station has a sign that says, last gas for 100 miles. So pretty much everybody stops, they top up their tank, some of them check their oil, check their coolant, and then they set off into the desert. And this is one of the most inhospitable places on the planet. Now, if 20, 30 miles after passing that gas station, you happen to glance up and notice that your fuel economy gauge has sunk from its previous 35 miles to the gallon to 12 miles to the gallon, and because perhaps your brake has decided that with the heat it's just going to drag. And then you get out of the car and you sort of check around and you notice a smell of fuel and you see that fuel is dripping from your gas line. The smart motorist turns around and heads back to the safe haven of that gas station rather than staying the course. As adults, one of the things that we learn is that we must be flexible, we must adapt as we encounter new information and new conditions. I submit to you that that is the case now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and finally, we have Ian Griffith on middle school facilities.
Excuse me while I parade a little ignorance. I'm sorely disappointed to learn right here, as you all spoke before we did, that there wouldn't be a vote. I had read last week in the various documentations that I found online that there was going to be a vote. I thought there was going to be a vote. I was like, cool, I'm going to come down and give my 2 cents and maybe sway that vote. Well, now there's not going to be a vote. I would have written something different, but you guys are going to have to hear what I wrote because I thought there was going to be a vote. And maybe somebody will, say, hey, let's have a vote anyway, because you guys can do that. I'm sorry, my name's Ian Griffith. I live at 1356 Vandermeer Street, less than a block north of Mayfield. The school board was going to vote whether or not to take advantage of an opportunity. An opportunity on the surface to not waste the $8 million over budget the Wiley renovations ran, which you'd think would be good enough. But on the other side is bureaucratic inertia. Apparently, even not wasting $8 million overspent, over 5% of the original issue 81 bond levy, 5% of my money and everybody else's here's money, is not enough to overcome bureaucratic inertia. Fine. There's a bigger opportunity. This Cleveland Heights University Heights school system was once described to me as, and I paraphrase, a small white suburban school system concealed within a larger mixed one. I found that description both apt and repugnant. If you end up in the Heights, make sure your kid will go to Roxborough, is a thing people hear. It's a thing they hear because Roxborough is mostly white. If this was a thing that could not be changed, well, it could not be changed. But we're in the middle of reshuffling the middle school populations. Not only can it be changed, now is the golden moment to do so. There are 3 middle schools. One just went $8 million over budget renovating it. It must be pretty nice. Of the other 2, I am reliably informed Roxborough is the more costly and challenging to maintain. There's already discussion of banding grades 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. We've heard it from many of the speakers. 2 schools is a natural approach. 1 has already been renovated. This is the opportunity to give every 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade student in the district access to the best that we can offer at one school, and not to waste the $8 million that we spent on Wiley. The first step to taking that opportunity is for the board to vote to an alternative to proceeding with the current plan. I remind the board that if you have a good idea, it's okay to change your mind. Please, vote for the alternative plan. Thank you.
Thank you. It seems, from what I've heard, that there was a lot of sentiment around thinking about an alternative path other than the continuing on the present path. And I think that, you know, the recommendation initially came from the administration that we should possibly look at some alternative other than the 6, 7, 8 that we had been dealing with all this time. And the board was open. The board said, okay, let's look at the information and data and so on. We probably got to the point where we realized that the amount of energy and effort, and I think Malia said it really well in terms of the money that we've spent, the money that we would use to explore alternatives, and even the time that we're involved. We are, as Sam might point out, we are out there. We're in the middle of it. And I think that our job is probably to try to hear what everybody's saying out there and then try to make the best decision that we can. And I think our recommendation generally is going to come from our thinking is guided to some extent by the education experts that we have hired to do this job. And I think that from my standpoint, you know, I was really excited, I have to be honest, about the 5, 6, 7, 8 possibilities. I mean, I'm still excited about it. But I think, given where we are, I think we stay the course. I mean, that's where I am. The second piece of what I would say is that we should have, at this point, knowing that people are so interested in this, we should have a rather robust conversation about what we do with our elementary schools. I mean, now what we have left to do is to think about how do we make that best. And I think Ian's idea that we can make good choices, I think the fact that we stay the course doesn't mean that everything's done. I think there's still conversation and dialogue that we need to have concerning our education. And I think equity is an important piece. I think we made a very important step in that regard. And I like Marcy's idea in talking about developmentally appropriate. When we had the conversation, the question that kept resonating in my head, what is developmental appropriate for our kids? And I have to say, I don't know. You know, I have to trust our educators to tell me that. So we are here, we're moving forward. We are going to have an opportunity to talk about what we do in phase 2, and I think that's going to be a very robust conversation. So we are here, and I'm okay with that. Any board members got comments?
I was going to wait for facilities, so.
You going to?
Well, we'll get other stuff on the agenda. Oh, I was going to wait towards facilities because I had some questions for our.
Okay.
But I was going to wait till later.
All right, that's fine. Anybody else want to say anything at this point? Because what we're going to have is we're going to have some conversation from the people who are responsible for getting us to this point to some extent. I think is that what you're saying? What are you saying?
No, I have a whole list of stuff, but I wanted to wait till we got to the facilities part of our agenda. That's all.
But is it related to a lot of the public comment? Is it related to the vote that we're going to take?
We're not taking a vote.
The vote that we were going to take that we're not going to take?
Well,
we can change direction, right?
I think he has a right, I think as a board member, he has a right to bring up his points when he feels like it's appropriate. I'm not sure what he has on his mind, but I think he does have a right to do whatever that looks like. He has a right to do it, I think. I don't know what it is yet, but if there's something on this agenda that he's telling me about that I'm saying, I got to get used to this new way of doing business.
Well, I mean, I would like to make a couple comments. And, you know, when the district first approached us back in April about looking at this 5, 6, 7, 8, I pushed back on that. And I pushed back on it because I knew we couldn't afford it. And as I think it was kind of, as we kept on teasing and teasing and teasing the numbers, it turned out that well, yeah, we can do it, but we have to put trailers behind the buildings. And we have to look more into it. I mean, there was just too many things that just didn't feel right. Staying the course, I understand that doesn't feel right for a lot of people too. I mean, I think the issue though is we initially thought we'd be following up the middle school project with an elementary project. We thought we'd have state monies available. We thought we'd be able to put another levy on the ballot for the second phase, which we have to do anything with the elementary schools. What I'd like to do is, this is for our peers, I mean, can we put together a process to reevaluate phase 2, where we look at our elementary schools, we dig into the 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe we open up and we look at things like what Alan recommended, you know, a K through 6. I mean, facts have changed. We don't have the kind of money that we initially thought we had because the state's not stepping up. And we actually named 2 buildings that we were planning on closing and using this space as swing space to bring those elementary kids in. So I think this is a perfect time for us to map out a process, or maybe get a recommendation from staff on how to map out a process, similar to what we did with the Lay Facilities Committee. You know, that was a very productive group. It got a lot of input from key players. Just wasn't insiders. There are a lot of people that we'd never seen before showed up, and some of them are here tonight.
Well, the answer to the question is yes. I think that when we made the initial plan, we did phase 1 and phase 2. I don't know what stay the course. We haven't, here's what I think we've done. We've decided that in phase 1, we'll continue forward on renovating Wiley and Monticello. I mean, Roxborough and Monticello. I think that's what we've decided tonight. I think that's the only thing we've decided. The conversation around what happens in phase 2 is something that we can have and we should have, in my opinion. And I think that's the question that you're asking.
That's the question I'm asking.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the proposal I'm throwing out.
Does anybody have any thoughts about that? I think we should have a really good conversation and exploration of phase 2.
Yeah, I agree. Considering that financially we can't afford it right now, but I would like to see down the road for us to revisit that in phase 2.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what I was posing at the last meeting, which is what we need from our owners' reps is that, it's up? The issue ends up being is I think we need to, now that we're farther down the road, and as Jim keeps pointing out, it's always 5 years away, we need to come up with, and we look at phase 2, we need to come up, I hate to say it, to a degree, almost okay, if, at least in my mind, if we don't, if almost draw a line in the sand of if by X date, if the state still hasn't made up their mind, then the board the district, I should say, has to make a decision of, okay, do we want, it was my question I posed at one of the meetings, if we fund it ourselves and then wait for the state, because I think we can't just wait forever for the state, as we've come to realize the more we've gotten into this. But yeah, I would say definitely, we need to examine, start creating a timeline. And even if we modify it or tweak it or what have you, we need to have something that's not merely open-ended. So I'd totally support that concept.
Sure, I think that's a great idea. I want to back up a little bit. This notion of staying the course, that suggests a straight road into the desert wherever you are, Sam?
Sam's right there.
Yeah, there you are. Thanks.
And the gas tank is leaking.
Yeah, and that road is not straight and never has been straight. And there has never been a single road into the desert. And I mean, just extend that as far as you want. The fact of the matter is, there isn't a course to stay. There are facts that keep coming. The input that we get keeps on changing, and we need to be dynamic enough to be able to look at that input as we go along. So I think that's wise. Well, I think an important thing that was said by members, people came up, everything you said was important. I really appreciate what Marcy Denton said, because the point of the matter is, the whole point of these facilities, there is not a single solution that's going to work. We have to make the solution we pick work, period. And I have to rely on the educators, the professionals that we hire to do the work of the district. We have to be able to rely on them to give us the information. Our superintendent is suggesting this is the course to take. I'm going to follow her suggestion on that. In terms of phase 2 and what Jim was saying, that I think it's a perfectly valid idea to discuss that going forward. But again, I guess I would encourage the community as well to recognize the role that you play if you start taking rumors or creating rumors and making them into facts. Because when you do, you change the process that happens. So it's very important that you take the ownership of that as well. The board has to take our ownership, absolutely. I'm not in any way suggesting anything different, but understand the role you play in what happens afterward. In terms of developmental appropriateness, yeah, we did K through 6, but you might remember that the reason why middle schools they were junior high schools at that point. The reason why middle schools came into play is because at that point in time it was determined that it is not developmentally appropriate for 6th graders to be with elementary students. So now all of a sudden it is appropriate for 6th graders to be, and I'm not disputing it, it's that you give me a fact and I'll give you 5 people on this side and 5 people on that side. So what I would really encourage the community to do is to focus on what we need to focus on, which is providing the best education we possibly can for the children of this community. And let's do this together rather than against each other.
I think that as we move forward, what we probably need to do is to have a work session focusing in on phase 2. I suggest that we go back to the master plan, take phase 2 at some point, tear it apart and see what's there. Can we do that?
Yeah, whatever you like, President.
Anyway,
Yes, we can do that.
I think we got to go back to the source document. I think that we are somewhat removed from that source document. We passed phase 1. We know kind of what that said, and we know that we had some issues with actually carrying that out. I like what Joan was saying about us learning from our mistakes. Let's see where we went and how we might do something different. I think I'm going to jump on Eric's bandwagon because we made a critical decision that got us to where we are. We decided that we were going to use an owner's rep in this process. And for me, that's important because I think public bodies generally don't know about facilities. And they do need somebody that does know about facilities and can help. So the owner's rep was one way of us trying to have somebody to guide us in this process. We didn't get the kind of guidance that we obviously needed so that we would be more knowledgeable. Some members of the board have a whole lot more knowledge about staircases and what do you call them, balusters and all that kind of stuff, and windows and R2s and R17s and all that. And even some people in the audience works for NASA, and they know all about this stuff. Board members don't necessarily come to the table with that knowledge. And so we need to make sure that we get as much of that, grab as much of that knowledge as we possibly can. And there are people who have written emails that have spoken directly to some of these issues. And we need to mine that information. At this point, I would say that we haven't mined it. And we really need to spend some time mining it. And I like the idea that Eric was talking about in terms of what does a work session look like. We really need to understand what it means to be involved in facilities projects. We've been strung along more or less, but I don't know that we've ever really stopped to say, okay, this is what we're really doing. We've had to deal with unforeseen circumstances or bad soil or something like that, but not really having a baseline on what construction is all about. And I think we've got to go back and get some education for ourselves. So anyway, that's where I am. So can we devise a work session that kind of really tears it into this? And Eric, I'm trying to get to what you feel like you need in terms of, I don't know if it's the construction people on the rep, I don't know who you're trying to pull on.
Well, no, what I was gonna ask some questions to them when we got to that part of the agenda. My other,
Okay,
most
that's
of-
fine.
Most of my other notes was just addressing some of the comments and what have, just more of a synopsis of where we are and how we are, so I figured it's more appropriate.
So you want to proceed and then get to it
Well,
when we
yeah,
get to
because
it?
most of the stuff we got's like 5-10 minutes, and then we're there already.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Okay. The real deal is me understanding how to read my agenda.
Okay, personnel.
Okay, so that means that we are on personnel, which is F1 through 6. So I'll take a motion to approve section F.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? One of the things that we should say is that the appointments that the superintendent brought up earlier are contained in section F.
Yes.
So those administrators that we're talking about would be approved as a part of this motion.
Correct.
Any other conversation, discussion? Mr. Gainer?
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Okay. Section G.
Okay, that moves us to G, which is business services, which is, the first part is approval of change orders, which are G1 through 11. And I think we can take those together, right? Is that-
It would be just G1, which contains one.
Okay, G is subdivided into 11 parts, okay.
Right.
So I'll accept the motion to approve G1.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? We do have discussion.
Good evening.
We got a PowerPoint too?
Yes, I do. Pat O'Brien with the PMC Regency team.
Okay.
Doug's on vacation this week, so I am here this evening. If I can get this thing to go away, it's not touchscreen.
Do you need some help?
Mark. Just trying to get this.
You
Sure,
mentioned
okay.
Doug, but a lot of people don't even know Doug.
Sure. Pat O'Brien with the PMC Regency Owners Rep team. And I think as a number of folks have alluded, we were brought on board to help guide the process with respect to the design and the construction, helping advise the board between the input from the architect, input from the construction manager at risk, because sometimes they can give you different opinions, and provide some clarity for the board in those types of matters, as well as things like what I'm going to present this evening, which would be recommendations on change orders that sometimes is managed through the district's business services office, but we're supplementing the district staff in this particular task, and that is what I'm here for this evening. Okay, so you sort of kind of got that little icon out of the way. You've got 11 change orders for consideration this evening, and they are broken into two categories. $230,000 in unforeseen conditions. 3 of the change orders, the bulk of them are in that category, and the balance are in what we call design clarifications, about $413,000. And I have all 11 of them with me. We have gone over these in detail a couple times with the board building subcommittee. And I have about 4 pictures to show you examples of some of the items, and then would open up to some questions. This is a picture of a type of unforeseen condition. If you look at that, the brick column on the right, once upon a time there was, I believe, a piece of steel that was in there, and didn't show up on any drawings. And when it's going to be a bathroom, if you look on the left, I don't know if you can tell, but that's plumbing fixtures coming out of the wall on the bottom left. Can't leave a bathroom looking like that, so we incurred a cost to fix that. This is up on the roof. Scott Bindle from Gilbane is going to show you a picture. You can see in the background on the right side, there's the stadium lights. But if you look from the front courtyard, this is on each side of the clock tower. There's some walls. What happened here was the piece of stone, and it doesn't show up very well up there, but there's a piece of stone that sits on top of a brick wall, and it looked like it was in pretty good shape. Looked fine. As we were doing the construction, we had some concerns, not just us, but the architect, construction manager, that it might leak into our roof, and so that was not something that had been contemplated. Didn't want to have any water leaking into our building. That's another example of an unforeseen. Here are two more examples. The door on the right is a door out onto the roof. The architect had us leaving it in place, not in great shape, wanted to replace that. And then on the left, if you're in the courtyard, the front courtyard, right to the left and the right of the courtyard, there are exits out of the basement. And there's some stairs you come out of the basement and go up. One of the things that as we were looking at that, we thought, if snow is in that area, and it does certainly snow here, where's the water go once the snow melts? Well, we didn't have anywhere for it to go. Design team hadn't really addressed that, so we said we ought to probably put some trench drains in there so that water doesn't continue to, water would melt and freeze. If somebody had to use that emergency exit, it would not be safe. So those are some examples of some of the unforeseen conditions captured. We have some issues that we also found. A couple of issues with the lockers. The design team did not give us the picture at the bottom of this picture, the vertical lines down at the bottom is the locker bays on the second and third floor. As it turns out, when we installed the lockers, they were too close together. That was really a mistake by the folks in the design team. We had to move those, and we also wanted to make sure we could accommodate every student with a full-size locker, which was not what the design team had captured. So we've got a cost associated with those. And then here's an example of we call the 3.5 floor, where the art spaces are. There's a means of egress, and there's a little walkway, but as you walk down the hall, you notice that there's nothing keeping dust and dirt from accumulating under there. So it wasn't very expensive, but we wanted to put, we put up a solid surface there to keep folks from going under there or for dirt from getting under there. And one more design clarification, called a design clarification in the permitting process, and this goes back a ways. ABR asked us to put canopies over the east and west entrances, which we had not had in the original design. And as you may recall, there was quite a few ABR meetings, but that change is captured in change order number 145. So those are your change orders, 11 of them. Some sample examples of some of the issues. Questions, comments, or Jim or Eric, anything you want to elaborate on for the board?
Yeah, I still think we are due a composite listing these categories of change orders so that we know exactly, at the end of the day, we can have a composite that these are design issues that cause us to go however millions of dollars over.
Oh, Ron, we are tracking those. I mean,
okay.
I don't want to, we could report at the next board meeting what the total is to date.
We want to see those. We want to see it.
Okay, yeah, I'll
and I think what we'd like to do is see it on an ongoing basis.
Okay, we have the 5 categories, and when we report next month, we'll show you. Here's how much was in category 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We'll show you a running total.
Yeah, I mean, Brad shares it with us, but you should, if you want it, you should.
Well, here's what I think. I think the public should know. I think we should know exactly how we got into, at some point, why we have so many change orders and what it cost us to do this. Because if we go back and we think about what we're learning, that's something that we ought to be able to learn as we move forward. We're not out of the facilities business yet, so we still got some things that we can learn. Let's make sure we learn them.
Well, Ron, and not that I'm one to defend our friends from PMC or our friends from Youngstown.
Thank you for that endorsement, Eric. That's strong endorsement.
But in this situation, I think one of the things, a key issue, well, I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, because I asked you guys about the downspout next to the entrances, because I was like, God, this thing looks ugly, I don't like it there. More likely than not is we had already designed the building, and that to a degree, the architects had designed the building, and then ABR says, oh, you need this canopy, so the canopy has to have a downspout, so you can see it right there in the drawing, which then alters the design. I think a key challenge we've had with this project was the fact, and I think our friends from PMC will probably agree, that we went to bid at 50% as opposed to a higher percent. So to a degree, the speed of the project, because we went to bid earlier than we are on the middle schools, we've learned, if you want to call it a mistake, we've learned from this.
That doesn't negate my point.
No, I'm not saying it is. What I'm saying is our goal on the middle schools is to go to bid with a far higher complete set of drawings than we did on the project.
I understand that, and that may be something that we learn from this project. I
that's
mean,
what I was-
I can put that in the learning category.
Well,
You know,
yeah.
but if you recall, when we launched this project, we were talked into believing that 50% was enough to get us there.
I'm not disagreeing with that. but-
Okay.
So we've learned that 50% isn't ideal in a project as complex as this.
Okay, I mean, that's fine, but it doesn't, your explanation doesn't negate what I'm asking for.
What I'm saying is, we've learned, you're correct, we've learned, and that's why we're not going to go to bid.
I'm not
with-
sure that we've learned, that's
Well,
my point.
no, we have. Are we going to bid in the middle schools at 50% development?
I believe the target is try to get further along in the percentage complete of the construction. But similarly, to one of the things that we are doing a better job on these two middle schools is a lot more due diligence upfront between joint recommendations from Moody Nolan and from Turner in terms of effectively tearing parts of the building apart to make sure that, I mean, the host of things that we've seen that we didn't discover in advance, that we're trying to mitigate that, doing a much better job on these schools because we have a longer timeline.
Okay.
I want to comment on the lockers. I mean, I think that's sort of a classic example of, why we need to have design clarifications. I think a lot of people would sort of look at the fact, we'll just deal with the half-height lockers. But when you're in that building, when you see the classes change, at least when my kids were there, there's altercations when people are in those lockers. And when you cram too many kids together, that means we need to have more security people. Although this is an expensive change, it'll end up paying for itself. I think because you're going to have less security people there. It's going to be, I mean, you need to have a little bit more space. I know one of the issues we've had in this building, when you've had too many kids around the lockers and just trying to get through the hallways, that's been a problem. I think we need to learn from that.
Yeah, I mean, to the extent that there's no perfect design, but things that we see operationally that don't work well, we want to correct those rather than once we get 1,600 children in the building and then figure out that something didn't work right. So, we're in the process of doing a lot of that now in terms of final inspections, but we've also had, some folks on the district operational side, walking through the building and trying to identify, hey, how are we going to clean this? How are we going to fix that in terms of things that we know we're going to have challenges with to make sure that, again, the design works, it actually works. And so this is an example, I think as you point out, Jim, that it's a functional issue that in theory can work and does work in buildings, it will work, but this solution is a better solution.
Any other questions at this point?
No, I would just,
Okay,
the
go
usual
ahead.
that Jim and I we've met with the folks, we went through them, grilled them. You've got to, now, again, the condition we are, these are things that have been came up or addressed 6, 8, 10, 12 months ago, correct?
Yeah, some of these are issues that were discovered a year ago, and there is a lot of, and as we mentioned before, a lot of back and forth with respect to making sure before we, as the owner's rep, sign off, before the architect signs off, before the contractor, the folks at Gilbane sign off, that the district is getting a fair value in return for the price that we're paying. So sometimes those negotiations don't go smoothly because there's some recalcitrance, there's some difference of opinions, and so some take longer to get, but we're not, so you're right, Eric, there are things here that have happened a while ago, but this is the point where they become, again, everybody has agreed that this in fact is a price that's consistent with what we should be paying for these items.
And we're anticipating one more large slug like this, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then I know we were posing the question, I think it'd be beneficial for you to explain sort of the drawdown, not to say drawdown, but the, once on August 1, we get the keys, ostensibly the building becomes ours, school opens August
21st is the first day.
21st, okay, August 21st, then it's not like you guys are out like a cartoon and we never see you again. I believe you and folks from Gilbane will be continuing to be on the process. If you could go over that a little bit, since we can now see the light at the end of the tunnel on the high school project.
Sure, there's a lot of things that happen. When we have occupancy of the building and we have substantial completion, that's not final completion. So like right now, for example, one of the things that's happening is between the HVAC contractor and our commissioning agent, the commissioning agent the district hired directly, they're doing functional testing of all the pieces of HVAC equipment to make sure the right amount of air is flowing through each one of those things and that we're getting the right temperatures and that all the equipment works correctly. That takes time. And they can have the building perfectly balanced and it all works great on August 1st. And then you put 1,600 kids in it and it tweaks a little bit. So they'll be doing those kinds of things. We have identified, when I say we, the design team has identified work that is what we call punch work. It's work that needs corrected because it didn't meet the installation standards and quality criteria. They're still looking at things like the landscaping. They came out I think they came out last week. The folks, Benke is a sub-consultant of BSHM, to look at the landscaping. And when you first drive around the building, you go, oh, there's a lot of plants and trees and the grass is starting to grow. That's not the standard. The standard is all the grass grown, all the trees, are they going to thrive? Are the plants, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? And so that punch process also applies to the quality of the windows that were installed, the quality of the masonry, the quality of the door hardware. I mean, in fact, I know there's a door that when you go out of the pool into the pool equipment room, the lock sticks. And little stuff like that still will be fixed before school starts, but it's inevitable we find other little pieces and parts of things that we're trying to tweak. And so to that end, the folks at Gilbane, and Scott can talk to this, he'll have at least 2 people here through September, and they'll still have some people here in October. The PMC Regency team is involved in the middle school design. We'll still be here, for quite a while. The design team, the design team is involved until we resolve all of the issues. Anything that comes up, even after substantial completion and occupancy, we have a 1-year warranty and guarantee on the workmanship that starts when we agree everything was installed and operational and correct. So, it's not like the team, even if this was the only building we were building, the team doesn't disappear and go away. So there's contractual obligations and then there's functional things that have to happen that, that the folks are still going to be here working on.
So when will Gilbane finally clear out of the wrestling room and the?
I think they'll have a couple of folks in the restroom room through September, and the goal is that the idea for them and for us is for the first 30 days is to knock out all. What happens is the people move in and there's kind of it goes up and then it tapers off like that. You hit it as quickly as possible when you get in the new building. Again, the idea is we have occupancy August 1st. So we start to identify all the little pieces and parts and things. There's always little stuff that you have to come back and fix. But, the Gilbane model where we say, hey, and again, I'm speaking on behalf of Scott, but after the beginning of end of September, we should have 95, 98% of that stuff tackled.
So the warranty starts like September?
Well, the warranty starts, there are a couple of components to that line. It's a kind of a tricky question. There are, in general, when the building is fully functional, operational, life safety, and we take occupancy, in general, that's August 1st. However, if there are systems that aren't complete, 100% complete, say there's a problem with, something something has to be 100% for the network, or we couldn't have our security system wouldn't work, but I'm trying to think of it. If there's an example of something that doesn't work right, the major pieces of equipment, we would say, hey, the warranty for that didn't actually start then. And that becomes something that part of what our job is to manage and represent the district in that. We had some of those arguments on this building about when does the warranty start, for example, on the roof of the music building, because there were problems with some leaks and there was problems with some minor pieces of equipment. So in general, that's going to be August 1st, but there may be specific issues that are accepted if the architect, and we recommend along with the architect that we don't accept that. It wasn't fully functional operational when we take it over. But in general, August 1st, and then we have a year. And then when you go through a heating season and a cooling season, you see how everything works, and you get a real good idea of what happens. And when school lets out in June of next year, technically the contract says there's an 11-month walkthrough, 11 months after occupancy. We'll do it as soon as school lets out. Go back through and get Gilbane with all their subs and say you have to fix all of the falling items. We'll do that as they come up. But as we get into April and May, we'll accumulate all those so that before our warranty period runs out, we don't miss out on the opportunity to exercise that or say, you have to fix this, and the warranty stays open until you do get it fixed.
So where's our warranty? Is it just in the business office?
There's a warranty on each and every piece of equipment and material. So like this stack of change orders, the stack of specification books, we have a stack of warranties. They come from each of the contractors. Each subcontractor has their own what's called an operation and maintenance manual, and inside that there are warranties. And then we can take, I don't know exactly how we're doing it here, but
who releases them from the warranty? Let me ask that question. When is the warranty period? When are you, okay, everything's fine, when do you get released from the warranty? Who releases, do you do that? Does
no,
PMC
the architect,
do that,
it's
or
ultimately
we
it's
do
the
that?
architect's responsibility.
Who?
The architect signs off on, yeah, when they sign off a certificate of substantial completion, it'll have exceptions saying the following items are not complete. And, then if there's a
And we
disagreement.
would end up with that.
The district will get a copy of that, yeah. George is involved in the discussions, Brad's involved in the discussions. Part of what we'll do is point out, hey, we got a problem with a piece of pool equipment or a piece of, one of the backboards in the gym isn't working right. We keep track of that stuff so that, after it's ours, then we have to follow up with the manufacturers on the warranty side. So, yeah, the business office will have a hard copy of all the warranties, electronic copy of it, and the phone numbers and names and contact information for all those folks. And we'll assist them with that while we're here. We'll be a while. But effectively, yeah, we own the stuff as a district, so then we own the warranty too.
Okay, I'm sort of getting there.
Just one thing about the warranty, so the warranties never starts from date of installation, though, right?
No warranties here. That's written in the contract. The warranties do not start when we install it. No, that's something that, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, that was a big argument in the industry because the vendor would say, hey, it's either X number of months from the day I shipped it or the day I installed it or the day you turned it on, it's yours. And like for example, a hot water boiler. The hot water boilers are on in the building, and they're running. So the manufacturer is going to tell the contractor that bought it, installed it, my warranty with you as a contractor started, and that doesn't have anything to do with us. Our warranty is with them when it's August 1st or when we say it's all good.
And warranty repairs are all done completely free of charge. There's no charges associated with them. Is that
That's correct.
And design clarifications, and let's do this generically, let's not talk about anything we've done here. So design clarification that seems to imply that a roof might leak, or something, because of the way it was designed, that wouldn't fall under warranty, even though that's not.
Once something is corrected, it gets a warranty. It is, the architect, part of their responsibility when we identify something that doesn't look right, like I mentioned, this piece of stone, that piece of stone that's up there, we ask the architect, give us a design that will make sure this doesn't leak.
Right.
And sometimes that's why it takes them a little bit longer to come up with an answer, because there's an easy answer that will work for a little bit of time and get us through the winter, but they have a liability, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but there's a statute in the state of Ohio about claims. It's a longer period than 1 year. And so if their design was deficient and it was installed per that design, that's a problem for the architect. If it was not installed per that design, that's a problem for the contractor. So if there's a post-installation, post-occupancy problem, and that happens, two most common things, roof leaks, HVAC systems don't work, those are things that a lot of times it's fingerprinted. You installed it wrong. Well, you designed it wrong. We installed it the way you designed it. And that's part of that, and that's another one of the things where our expertise, I've got a lot of experience with claims and mediations where we can try to make sure that doesn't end up in a formal adjudication, but we can also get that problem fixed so that it's not pending someone figuring out what the wrong,
Just let's keep this in the generic for a moment. So if a design is deficient, using your word, that requires a design clarification, which is the fiscal responsibility of your customer. Is that correct?
If it turns out that something wasn't addressed in the original design that should have been, the architect has to give us a design that does correct that. That's their cost to figure out how to design it, but the cost to make the correction falls under the heading of I think what your council may refer to as betterment. If we would have known about that before we bid it, before we started, we would have paid for it either way. So we as a district have to pay for that. We don't pay for the design. And that's sometimes in the post-installation arguments, there's a lot of finger pointing back and forth because, you know, an engineer who isn't being paid doesn't want to spend a lot of time investigating a problem that may result in him admitting that he or she designed something wrong. And so there's the easy answer is always, well, the contractor installed it wrong. And that's why those can sometimes take a lot longer than you'd like to have resolved.
So the bottom line answer to the question is, it is the fiscal responsibility of the district, but the reasoning behind it is you would have had to pay for it anyway had it been designed correctly in the first place.
That's correct.
I just want to take a minute and say I apologize for the heat. It's I know it's warm in here, but we are already in the process of moving to the new facilities. Bear with us.
Are you done? I mean, there's two things. I mean, what I have found by sitting on this board subcommittee is a lot of stuff is being figured out as the building is going in. And some of the stuff has actually been labeled and we've talked about it, like the pool drains, for example. It was drawn one way. When the contractors came in there and did it, they sort of looked at this and said, no. We are going to have too many issues with this. I mean, we switched the pool direction. We've made some changes. You're going to have to update the drains. So you may look at that as, ouch, it's another change order. But dealing with it now is a whole lot cheaper than dealing with it later. Just like in the main drain of the pool, where I think it was like an 8-inch or a 6-inch, it was a small, the pipe was too small. They needed to put a bigger pipe in. And then, if we would have had to deal with that later, it would have been a problem. And this is one of the issues that sort of Eric brought up. I mean, when we went to bid, we were rushed so quick to get this thing, on the board. I mean, this is a big project to be done in 2 years. It went to bed with only 50% of the drawings done. So there's a lot of allowances and a lot of the stuff that's in the allowances. So when we see that in the change order, these upcharges are all built into that. So.
Well, we hired supposedly experts. They know about this process. So I don't want us to keep saying that 50% this and whatever. We were advised that we could do this with 50%. If we couldn't do it, we should have known before now. But anyway, I get a little bothered about that. Well, there's some of us who are not going to do it. Scott he's okay. He's okay. You guys can take your jackets off if you want. I'm going to keep mine on.
I'm good for now, but it's getting close.
But anyway, Jim, that's why I think we have to tear this completely apart to kind of understand this. We didn't come up with the idea that 50% was good enough for us to do this. We were told 50% was good enough for us to do it. So. I don't know if I'm supposed to do that.
Yeah, I think we should.
I think the idea that we would have a work session to really dig into this is the right thing to do. I don't think we're going to get too much deeper into this tonight.
So this is in addition to the phase 2?
Well, I think the phase 2, what we learned from phase 1 should be informing phase 2. And this is part of the learning, and as far as I'm concerned.
It's going to take more than one meeting for.
I would agree
no,
with that.
I would say I would suggest it's when I was running an organization, we did what we call an after-action review, which was, the impetus for that was our treasurer was in the Army. So he always, after everything, we always did an analysis, what worked, what didn't work, what recommendations for the future. I think our opening salvo would be the high school's done, what worked, what didn't work, and especially in the process standpoint, because I would concur with you. The advice we received was, you can do it, you'll be okay, and well, we weren't. So I think we need to use that as our foundation for going into phase 2 discussion.
So we have the Bond Accountability Commission.
We do.
Which the applications were delayed. We have another week before they're finally due. We're getting a good number of people.
No.
You wish we had more.
We're not getting a lot of people. who want to participate. But
It's a tough job.
yeah.
Well, okay, so if you want to put an application in, put an application in, okay? So that's a plug. But,
For the Bond Accountability Committee.
okay, so this is a citizens organization that digs into the finances, and they sort of come back with a report, okay? It seems to me that what we're talking about needs to go to them.
Yeah, but I think we don't have to design it tonight. I think there's an opportunity for us to have input on this. We have said what we'd like to do. I think the ideas that we have about what we need, I think we need to be putting that down and organizing. We don't have to rush through phase 2. And my thing would be, let's not rush. Let's take our time and really mine our lessons here. I mean, that would be what I would say.
Well, in that regard, and not as a shameless plug for opportunity to show off an asset, what I would suggest is, this is July. I don't anticipate we're going to have a work session in August on this, but come after September, we're going to have a new air-conditioned, heated, new technology building that I could easily see us having a work session in the new cafeteria. I don't call it dining commons, it's a cafeteria. And I can see it's another opportunity for us to showcase, a space that's not god-awful hot. But also, we need to start looking at a timeline for when we want to do it, but we don't have to solve it all this evening. I would concur with that assessment.
Yeah, and the administration will put that together for us. They'll make some recommendations. Cafeteria, huh? You gonna have air in that cafeteria?
Yes.
And light.
And light.
Yes.
Great. Beverly?
I just have a question about the change order that's $190,000, the auditorium existing condition. Can you kind of clarify that real high change order for me, please?
Sure, there are a number of things that are captured in change order number 140. The biggest chunk of that is the amount of damage to the plaster on the walls that was in that space, and the restoration up in the balcony level that they had to do to make it look normal was above and beyond what the design team had anticipated. And so that's a big chunk of what that is. There was some work on the chair rail, laminating and finishing it in there, and there was in that change order there's a small piece of some miscellaneous demolition and break and fills. But the main component of it was related to the fact that again, part of what we've talked about before was the level of investigation and documentation of the scope of work required to finish the auditorium wasn't, didn't match up with the bid documents. As a consequence, Gilbane had assigned a dollar figure for that work based on the direction from the architect. And then when they got in to actually do the work, you can see it exceeded it fairly significantly. That being said, we didn't do a historic renovation. We didn't try to restore it to the 1920s. And, when you see the space, it looks normal. Part of that, there's a number of reasons for that, but that's primarily what it's involved in.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything?
No, change orders, no.
Okay. Thank you. Is there?
Usually, Mr. President, there's a motion for consideration of whether to.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Do we have a motion?
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Gainer, would you call the roll?
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
So now we have,
Mr. Bindle was going to bring up, he's got some photos for you and discussion of the progress on the high school construction.
As Pat said, I'm Scott Bindle with Gilbane Building Company. part of the Gilbane-Ozan team, and we are making significant strides towards turning this building over to the school district on time. So we are bringing it in for occupancy, certificate of occupancy and life safety, which is substantial completion on August 1st, prior to August 21st, start of school. So this is a picture I've showed a couple of times earlier, which had a lot of material stored in it, dirty floors, incomplete work, and this is the floor finish. This is the polished concrete. We've got these metal panel, interior metal panel roof over what are actually the library workrooms. And we've got a lot of prep over here for some monitors and AV inputs for public meetings such as this to make this a multi-use space. And as you can see, with just about every space in this building, you've got a lot of natural light through the curtain wall on the outside. This, again, is a picture I've shown a few times prior to it being finished. This is the media center, the library. You see the empty bookshelves in the background and the reading tables in the foreground, and some of the breakout rooms and offices in which are under that metal panel lid that we saw earlier. Over here we've got one, again, I'm trying to bring a lot of the pictures that I've shown a few times before in their finished state. So here is one of the art classrooms. I think this is the 3D graphics room, if I remember, with the furniture and the teacher station set up. This is the mini auditorium, which we are putting the finishing audiovisual touches on. You can see the very large screen in there. I understand this may or may not be used for some of the board meetings. Air conditioning works fine. This is the vocal music, one of the two vocal music rooms. You see the floors are finished, risers are built out, music stands are being staged on the stands, and the AV system is in place. Lights are on. Air conditioning works fine. Instrumental music room. This is down on the cedar level. Another high bass space. It's got the acoustic panels just about done. We've got the last few sitting over here ready to be put up. And the floor finish has got to be cleaned up and load out some of the materials, and that room's ready to go for furniture. This is the cleaned and completed competition gym with the acoustical panels on the wall, floor finished and cleaned, swing down volleyball set up, ready to go, bleachers powered up and tested. And this is one of my favorite photos I've taken so far, which is the landscaped, mostly green. We've got some bare patches that got washed out in the storm, but it'll be greened up a little bit better for the start of school. But the handrail is painted, the metal handrail right here, and we've got the stone rail completed, which is new sandstone to match a lot of the old sandstone details. The entry storefront in the middle here is installed. Managed to keep the windows closed for a whole day, but the clock tower is keeping the right time. This is the front entrance. This is the courtyard entrance of the building.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And that's all I have for you today.
Thank you.
Yeah, every night I go by there, I check the time.
So do I.
It's been keeping good
So
time.
do I. Early on, we had a start-stop where it didn't work for a couple of weeks there, but it's fixed.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. So we're ready for G2, is that correct?
Should, Dr. Dixon, do you want to just announce the date of the opening so people start putting it in their
We
calendar?
have convocation August 18th, and we have a ribbon cutting activity that will around 11:30, and then on September 10th is our big community event. So mark that on your calendars. We're actually starting August 1 on our website. We have a countdown to opening, and all the events of a calendar of events that's going to happen the entire year at the high school and around. So we really, with the Heights Foundation and along with our communications office, is planning a year of events around the high school. So we're excited about that. So August 1st, it'll be on the website, along with the countdown to opening.
Okay.
George.
I'll accept the motion to approve item G2.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, Scott? George?
This is just your typical quarterly contracts that are up for.
Okay.
Would you call the roll?
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
So I'll take a motion to approve item G3, which is insurance, I believe, liability and property insurance. So motion. Second? I'll second.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Gainer?
Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Okay, the next item is G4, which is a number of donations. And I'll accept a motion to accept those donations.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Gainer?
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Register?
Yes. Thank you, George. I think we can take H1 and 2 together. I'll take a motion to approve finance H1 and 2.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
I'll just note, the financial reports we have through May, we're still closing the books, so the June reports should be at the next meeting, and we're just moving forward with the final appropriations for last year that you gave me the authority to adjust at the last board meeting, so that's an audit matter there.
So it's done?
It's done. Well, the appropriations are done. The books are still being closed, but we'll have those final numbers for you in a final cash position report for the month of June and August.
Okay. All right, I don't have anything today.
We need a vote on that.
We do?
We do.
Yes.
Oh, then let's vote.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, I don't have a board president's report. Do we have any unfinished business?
I was gonna,
Go ahead.
well, we had a lot of stuff going on in regard to the public comments, and I wanted to, some notes, because I've been sending emails to a number of folks on it. I don't know if our friend from the Plain Dealer is still here, but they keep using the number of 46 million versus 30 million, and I think that I would hope that if the media is still here, that when you're going for numbers, talk to Mr. Callender, because comparing the 46 million to 30 million is an inaccurate comparison. Another thing I would suggest, I know we're all very rightfully proud of the high school and how it looks, but I'd also remind folks that, and I've got a lot of positive feedback, but to a high degree, if you're driving on Cedar Road, it looks great. It looks great because we took down the science wing, put the right kind of windows in, and the new construction matches. That's because, in my opinion, we're so used to bad-looking architecture that when you have something that looks good, you're surprised by it. The reason we have some of our cost issues in this phase, in the second element of the phase one, is due to a whole litany of issues that we discussed. I think the facilities accountability gave us, and the board had a response to that. So I would encourage folks that we look at the different segments of why we had cost creep on that. On the middle schools, Jim and I were both on the Lake Facilities Committee. We had a number of folks here as well. The original vision, I think, unfortunately, with the idea of tearing down all the additions and building new spaces, that was predicated upon a certain set of things occurring, basically everything breaking our way. And unfortunately, things didn't break our way, as we know. And I think I wanted that very much. And I think I made peace with that. And unfortunately, the problem we have is that as we saw this evening, we have finite resources and we have to figure out what's the best course of action. And Alan's suggestion of a 7/8, well, I like that idea because I had an idea similar to that about 4 months ago. The problem we have is that to make that a reality brings in a whole series of dominoes. And the question is if we could game those dominoes out. I think it would be wonderful if we could move forward with our current 6/8 plan and go to our friends from Moody Knoll and Turner and say, hey, can you give us an alternate that we could then maybe spend another 4 or 5 tumultuous months going back and forth. But I'm pretty sure that our friends from both of them, they would be very as we've gone through multiple, hey, can you try this? Oh, no, hey, can you try that? Hey, can you try this? They would probably throw stuff at us, as much as I'd love to see us do it. But I think the conversation we've heard from a number of people in the audience is, I think we need to view it as, what we're doing, this isn't by the district saying we're going to renovate the 2 buildings. That doesn't mean we're locked in with a 6A forever. It doesn't mean we're locked in to the current footprint. What we're doing is a comprehensive renovation. And I think, unfortunately, we continually downplay it by saying it's modest. To me, $15 million in a building where it's a completely new HVAC system, and it has completely new interior finishes, new restrooms, and another number of other things, that's a little more than modest. I think we've been too conservative in saying what we're doing on the buildings, and a number of the elements that we're not doing now, such as complete roof repair or windows, are elements that we can add in at a later date. What else are my other notes I had here? The one thing I will say too, because I said before, I'm a big fan of the idea of an upper and lower concept, but the upper and lower, when initially envisioned by the Buildings Committee, the late Facilities Committee, that was sort of predicated upon a scenario where we were going to remove the additions on the 2 buildings and then build, the new additions would be sympathetic that would allow for the potential to add on to the buildings. So I just want to clarify that point. And another one, I know that the super got a lot from me on this, is that when I was doing, when we look at grade configurations, there really is no one grade configuration, because when we look at neighboring systems, comparable systems, the super doesn't like it when I look at other MSAN systems that are similar to us, there is no one system that anybody's using. What was very interesting, you had even some systems where you have, at least appear from their website, okay, you have, one specific was Alexandria, Virginia, because I remember we hired a superintendent from there. They have primarily, they have, if my memory serves, they have all their middle school students go to one 9th grade building. Then they have a 10, 11, 12 high school. Then they also have one K-8 building and other systems as well. The reality is there is no one-size-fits-all concept for grade configuration. It ends up being what's going to work for you, and more importantly, in my opinion, it really isn't. It ends up being what is that teacher doing in that classroom with their curriculum, with the resources, and their parents and support apparatus. That's what's going to determine the success of the student. So I think I would concur with my colleagues that I think now is the time for us to start looking at, okay, what do we want to do in phase 2? When are we going to do phase 2? And more importantly, take serious stock of what worked and what didn't work on phase 1 as we go forward, because I share Mr. Register's disappointment with how we are in this position, because I really wanted to do a lot of things different, and ultimately we didn't have the dollars. That's just the way it is. It's unfortunately, that's unfortunate. But again, I would encourage folks, if you have, I think Cal said, or somebody else as far as rumor, I think you said rumor. Somebody said. The reality is that there's a lot of talk and stuff that people regurgitates over and over again, is that make sure you get your facts straight and your research, because 9 times out of 10, what you're hearing, I had a member of University Heights, oh, are you doing this? Oh, are you doing that? It's like city council. No, we're not. That's not what we're doing. So it's a matter of finding the information and getting it out there. And I'm schwitzing, so I'm done. I'm tapping out.
Okay. Anything else? What about new business? Any board committee reports?
Oh, just quickly, we had a tour with some folks from University City Council. I don't know if anyone here is still from Gilbane. The tour guide was excellent, and the folks had a very good. Just those photos, we were there, Jim and I were in there last Thursday. They've dramatic changes in just the last few days since then.
Okay. Do we have any other tours planned?
One more this Thursday, and then I'll keep plugging the superintendent for more.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Gainer?
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman? Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.